Ukraine says 9 Russian warplanes were destroyed in explosions at an airbase in the annexed Crimea region earlier this week. Russia has used the Saki base near Novofedorivka to strike southern Ukraine. Moscow says detonations of stored ammunition set off the blasts, not an attack. Ukraine has not claimed responsibility for any attack, but has hinted at its involvement. Well, let's go to London now and bring in military analyst and conflict researcher Mike Martin. Mike, talk to us about those explosions at the Russian airbase in occupied Crimea. How do you think that happened, and what are the military implications?
Almost certainly it was the Ukrainian forces, whether it was a missile strike or some people are talking about special forces activity, or whether it was simply partisans, so Ukrainian civilians attacking the base. Almost certainly it was the Ukrainians that had a hand in it. And the reason they're denying it, it's very clever. It creates ambiguity and it creates doubt in the minds of the Russian commanders. And this, of course, is what Russia's used as a tactic for many years now. So it's really very clever. In terms of military significance, 9 warplanes, that's a lot. But perhaps more important is the fuel and the ammunition. If you look at the videos of the secondary explosions, huge mushroom clouds. And so that will set back Russian forces in the south of Ukraine quite significantly.
Okay, let's go to Zaporizhzhia, that nuclear plant. Kyiv has accused Moscow of using that plant to shield its artillery in the south. How dangerous is the situation there?
Very. It's absolutely outrageous. So under the rules of war, nuclear facilities are, similarly to hospitals, have protected characteristics. So combatants in war are meant to avoid occupying or otherwise attacking nuclear facilities for obvious reasons. You know, if you hit the reactor, if you damage the cooling systems, then you could end up with a Chernobyl-style meltdown. So Russia, by occupying the plant and firing from it, is breaking the rules of war, so it's an illegal act. And of course, the reason they're doing that is to stop Ukraine firing back at them, which the Ukrainians are, not doing. They're not firing back for obvious reasons.
British intelligence says that Russia's military capacity is under significant strain now. But how significant can that really be, Mike, given Russia's massive military resources?
Russia does have mass, and we've seen over the last weeks and months trains of stockpiles of Soviet equipment, so old tanks from the 1960s being wheeled towards Ukraine. But weight of equipment is only one thing in war. There are other things like your ability to deliver logistics, your ability to command your soldiers, morale. And on all those things, Ukraine has the upper hand. So I think, Russia does have a lot of equipment, but it's also losing a lot of equipment, which is why so much of it is being delivered. I think really now what we must think about is what happens in the next 3 months before winter happens. That is the really important window where Ukraine will be trying to make some significant gains.
Now, defense ministers from several NATO countries are meeting in Copenhagen today to discuss long-term support for Ukraine. What can Ukraine expect from that, Mike?
We've already heard an announcement that the United Kingdom will be giving 3 more of these long-range rocket artillery systems that I'm sure your viewers will have heard of, and a significant quantity of ammunition. Of course, the most important thing with artillery is the ammunition. I think what we see with this donor conference, with previous donor conferences, is a drumbeat. Donors come along, they announce, incremental increases in weapon systems to Ukraine, and that steadies the alliance. It keeps supplies going to Ukraine. It's all part of the show. It's moving forward.
Mike, thank you so much again. That was military analyst Mike Martin in London. Meanwhile, on the mainland, Ukraine has stepped up attacks on Russian supply lines in the strategically important Kherson region as it seeks to conduct a counteroffensive to retake areas of the south. DW's Matthias Berlinger went to the front line to meet Ukrainian fighters preparing for trench warfare.
There are weeds at the bottom of the trenches. That's how long the front line has been here near Kherson. For Satan, that's his battlefield name, this has meant months of living in and under the earth. This is where they sleep, eat, and wait for something to happen. Ukraine's national poet, Taras Shevchenko, watches over them.
When they shell us, we all come down here. 2 people have to stay outside to monitor the situation. The others hide in here.
It's mostly been an artillery war, being shelled, shelling back, waiting for the next round. 2 sides target each other from a distance, trying to damage a position enough to then storm it.
This part of the front is in danger of a tank attack. But believe me, if they come, we will meet them adequately.
Right now, it's the Ukrainians who are attacking. They launched a counteroffensive weeks ago and have taken a few dozen settlements. But the advance is slow.
We liberate the settlements that we can. When we do, we don't move into the village, but we make sure the Russians are gone. We don't go in order not to risk our soldiers' lives. That is important. When the command thinks that we have enough weapons, our soldiers will happily move forward.
As we travel to another position, scorched earth. We can't get information on how many modern Western weapons they have at this section at the front, but we are constantly told it is not enough to move on more boldly. A break from the shelling, lunch in the trenches. The soldiers have been living here too for many months. At the moment, the mood is even relaxed here in the trenches. There is a break in the fighting, but there is the expectation that the Russians might step up their shelling again. Soldiers know recent strikes on artillery dumps using HIMARS multiple rocket launchers disrupt the Russians.
These strikes lead to less shelling from their side for a certain period of time. But the Russians also adjust their logistics. They learn the lessons from our HIMARS and far-ranging artillery. Unfortunately, the war is not just a permanent turn in our favor. It's a process and it keeps changing.
Here in the trenches at the Kherson front, it's about patience, moving forward carefully, and keeping focus.